Hello, hello. I'm Ben Pick. Thank you for joining me in the first episode of Writing to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. I absolutely love getting drawn in by my characters. I find it fascinating to piece together the story problems and figure out how various plot elements fit together, or how to get the colorful scenes in my head out in a way that hopefully captivates an audience. On the other hand, I'm a passionate runner. I'll forego a full night's sleep at least 3 times a week to take off for anywhere from 6 to 10 miles, letting my thoughts wander where they will. While I'm running through rain, sleet, and more often than like snow, in my head I am playing through various plot points, twisting them around while my legs do the rest of the work. In fact, I decided to do this entire series when a minor injury slowed me down for about a month or two. During that time, I wasn't able to put in the miles I wanted, and even though I had potentially more time to write, the quality of the writing I was doing wasn't really what I was looking for. That injury taught me that my two passions are entwined. My writing process has been long, arduous, and at times painful. To that end, I have modeled the first 26 episodes of this series after a marathon, which I find to be a surprisingly apt metaphor for the writing process as a whole. Both writing a novel and writing a marathon are monumental trials of endurance, where we battle ourselves in mind, body, and spirit. This being the first episode, I am drawing comparisons to that first mile, where you've crossed the starting line and are committed to completing your goal, be it crossing that finish line 26.2 miles later, or finishing that novel. Surprisingly, there are people who can wake up and run a marathon. I knew somebody who was pacing a friend and accidentally ran the whole thing because they just didn't stop. Likewise, there are authors who can write a book in a weekend. But for every Philip K. Dick or Stephen King, there are countless other potential authors who take years or decades to write that one novel, if at all. A lot of potential authors may fail by starting too quickly. In that first mile, it is easy to get caught up in the general excitement of the crowd, setting an unsustainable pace that ultimately leads to failure. In writing, when there's that kernel of an idea that you really want to start, it's easy to sit at your desk and write until you are spent or out of ideas or have rushed headlong into a plot paradox. In both writing and running, if the starting pace is unsustainable, then the finish line never gets reached. These are my 5 strategies to set a proper pace and not burn out. Number 1, create a schedule and then keep to it. Personally, I decide to strive to write at least a little bit every single day, and I have adjusted my schedule to accommodate that. On the way to work, I used to take public transportation, giving me a perfect chance to write while on the bus or the metro. In fact, one of the few good things I had about a job years ago was that it was a quiet 45-minute one-way commute. I got on early enough to stake out my seat and wrote for that entire time until I reached the end of the line. If that's an option, try carpooling for a leg of the trip. Even writing for a little bit will help, with the added bonus of being more green. While at work, I had taken long lunches to write. That helped me both vent my thoughts, and by staying longer in the day, I avoided the rush hour parking lot. Limiting the amount of shows you watch on Netflix definitely helps give you more time to write. And I personally try to avoid marathoning even those interesting new ones. I also stay up 20 minutes later on evenings that I devote entirely to writing, so that I can squeeze those last few minutes out of my day. In the end, if you don't get your ass in that seat, nothing gets written. Number 2, make sure your plan is sustainable. Writing for an hour a day won't fit in an active lifestyle filled with plenty of responsibilities. You might only have 10 minutes after making dinner, walking the dog, and preparing for tomorrow. That's perfectly fine. The point is, you need to figure out what fits within your schedule. Writing the whole year like it's NaNoWriMo, where you write 50,000 words in 30 days, isn't sustainable for most people. So write in a way that you can repeat day after day, or every other day, or 1 week in a month. Number 3, make the most of your time. I have a dog, and one of the last things I do every night is take him for a walk. Before that, though, I read from the chapter I'm working on. That way, while I'm walking, I plan what comes next in the story, either clearing roadblocks or adding them in for the characters. When I get home and finally start writing, I am much more productive in that budgeted time slot. Instead of spending the first 10 minutes rereading my own material and trying to remember where I'm going, I immediately jump into the work in progress. I cannot stress this enough. This works for me, but it may not work for you. The point is to find the means that will make your writing time as efficient as possible. Number 4, find a routine to sink into a groove. Much like putting one foot in front of the next, I aim to write consistently and repeatedly. The best way I've found to do that is to set up regular, good writing habits. For example, you could aim to write 15 minutes every day. Repeatedly achieving that goal builds on its own successes. If you maintain the habit, eventually you'll have something complete, be it a short story, a new novel, or a 300,000-word doorstop. And my 5th strategy for avoiding burnout? Think about why you write. Although this changes over time, there needs to be a driving reason to go through this effort. This is easiest to do when you are first starting and that spark of inspiration is strongest. Writing a novel is hundreds or thousands of hours of your life, and that's not something you want to do idly or waste. This means continually reaffirming why you are passionate about the story. When I get in my writing slumps where I doubt myself and second guess every decision or chapter or plot point, I remember why I write. For me, this comes down to writing a story that I am interested in reading. You may want to ask yourself what drew you in to write this particular story. Was it the characters, the plot? Is it a witty social commentary? Without writing with purpose, it's easy to give up halfway through when it gets difficult, slog to the finish line, or, worst of all, write a boring story. If you don't give a shit about the material, how do you expect someone else to? So write what you love and write the stories that you want to tell. It's not as important to write what you know so much as it is to write what you're willing to research. Those were my 5 strategies to set a writing pace. Thank you for joining me in the first episode of my series. Post in the comments below what you thought about my strategies or any that you'd use to keep pace while writing. I am Ben Pick. Writing to Write comes out every Monday night. Please, please, please share, like, and subscribe. See you next time. Until then, write whatever pace you choose.